Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristen Williams. I'm the Executive Director of the National Pawnbrokers Association, and we are thrilled to welcome Martin Rapaport with us here today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Martin and a little bit of his history, and then we'll dive in and get started. Founder and chairman of the Rapaport Group, Martin is a primary advocate for ethical, transparent, competitive, and efficient diamond markets. He began his career in Belgium as a diamond cleaver in 1975 and started out as a New York diamond broker in New York City. Martin actively supports an ethical diamond trade and has played an important role working with governments to improve the lives of artisanal diggers and unfair trade practices. Martin established the Rapaport price list in 1978 and the RapNet online diamond trading network in 1991. Both have transformed the diamond industry by significantly increasing transparency and competition. Rapaport Information Services includes the Rapaport magazine and diamonds.net, which is the primary source of diamond price and market information. Rapaport Auctions is the world's largest recycler of diamonds, with monthly auctions for diamonds and jewelry in New York, Dubai, and Israel. The Rapaport Group currently employs about 140 team members with 9 offices worldwide. With that said, I'm going to hand this off. If you have questions and would like to ask questions of Martin, please use the Q&A or the chat function that's available through Zoom. We are so pleased to have you join us, Martin. Welcome, and let's get started.
Thank you very much, Kristen, and thank you all for being with me today. We're going to talk about diamond prices in a world of change, and the world of change may be an understatement. It's a world that has got so many things happening at the same time. It's even difficult to understand what is happening, let alone to think about how are the things that are happening going to impact our businesses. And I've taken a bit of time to consider the position of pawn shops specifically, rather than just regular jewelers or diamond manufacturers or mining companies, etc. So let's move along over here. We'll talk a little bit. First of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank the NPA team. I want to thank Jody. I want to thank MK Moore. I want to thank Avital Michelle for putting this together. Michelle is the key player in everything that you're seeing going on today with the talk and the follow-up and everything else. And Avital, who worked with me so much on these actual presentation. Now, we appreciate this opportunity for Rapaport to reach out to the pawnbroker community. And, you know, people in the diamond and jewelry business, they tend to think, oh, we're diamond people, we're different, we're here, we're there, we're not they don't connect with diamond diggers in Africa or with pawnbrokers. But in fact, pawnbrokers are an important part of the diamond and jewelry industry because they actually provide the confidence by buying in goods, by lending money on goods. And so therefore, if you think the diamonds are valuable, the pawnbroker and the pawnbrokers are some of the people in the world who stand behind that and say, yes, you have a piece of jewelry, I'll give you money for it. It is something of great value. So let's see where we are here. So we'll talk a little bit about Rapaport. Most of this talk is going to be to try to understand the diamond markets, and what we see is a very complicated area. We'll speak briefly about synthetics and briefly about this recycling opportunity for pawn shops. First of all, about the Rapaport Group. Let me just hide away this floating controls. We believe in, and it's, you know, business isn't just about money. I know that sounds funny, but it really isn't. If you have the right values, you can work. We're 44 years old now as a company, which is, you know, quite a bit of time to survive as a company in the diamond and jewelry business. But what keeps us going? What is the basis of our business? How do we make decisions? So first of all, it's got to be ethical. So I'm not going to deal with all kinds of deals and all kinds of, just like pawn shops, you're not going to deal with stolen goods, right? Transparent and competitive, when you put those two things together, you get to make trouble. Because if you're transparent about things like an auction, and then you have competition and people are coming and they're all bidding, that creates markets, that creates fair market value. If you want to sell something, and you have no idea how much the person who's buying it from you is one person, and he's wiggling with you, and he knows the goods, and you may not know the MELI values. It's not a competitive, transparent environment, that's for sure. And efficiency. So these are our values at Rapaport, and they go through everything, whether it's the price list or it's Rapid or anything else. So we've already got this coverage. We've got 20,000 clients in 121 countries, and we don't own diamonds. We're in the added value service business. So I always joke, we're not smart enough to own diamonds. We let that for other people, okay? But we make markets. We create environments where people can buy and sell diamonds. Today's sponsor is really Rapaport Auctions, which is Michelle's team and Michelle's company, really. And we are dealing with MELI, parcels, single stones, and jewelry. We hold auctions, and always in New York, but sometimes New York, sometimes New York and Dubai, sometimes New York and Ramat Gan in Israel. That's these single stones we show in both markets, and we get a lot of interesting things by being global, because about 80–90% of the goods are bought in Israel, and then about 80% or 70% of the goods are bought in Dubai. So in Dubai, the Indians can travel there very easily to buy the MELI. We really believe in having a strong personal relationship, and what our brand is all about, trust. You can trust us. We've been handling billions of dollars of diamonds over the years. We represented the GIA for 25 years. So we handle a lot of goods, and we are always straight up with our customers, and we build relationships. So we're not just another business and, just do business, goodbye. We do all kinds of services, sorting, boiling, certification. And we work, like I was just saying to you, with Dubai and with Israel, but also other markets when they're relevant, when there's good buy. You show me a good buyer, we're going to go there to sell them. And so we do monthly by monthly auctions and fast turnaround. Okay, you already mentioned it so nicely already. Information services, we do research. We actually spend millions of dollars doing research, understanding the market, analysis, magazine, diamonds. Then there's new Rapaport.com website coming up. RapNet is amazing. I mean, it's just unbelievable. RapNet's got, $8.9 billion of diamonds listed every day. Sometimes it goes down to 8 billion or more, but 1.8 million diamonds we're keeping track of on an ongoing basis. So we're a big IT company for that. The big thing is the auctions and trading services, and then we do grading and QC. So if we can work with you, and we're not suitable for every company, but if you really want to play in the diamond playing field, we are good people that can help you. Okay, enough about us. So now let's talk about the market. Let's think about what's really going on, maybe what's going to happen also. Well, first of all, it's crazy. So many things are going on. I mean, no one here came, first of all, we had this thing with low interest rates, ridiculous. And I'm going to talk about interest rates a lot. Then all of a sudden, COVID, then the Russians, recession, stock markets have been dropping significantly this year. They zoomed up last year. Everyone thought with COVID, the diamond business was going to be lousy, but we had a huge stimulus. So it wasn't lousy. It was great. Pawn shops were talking, I think it was 2021, the summer of 2021 sounded like Christmas. People were out of inventory. They were just selling everything. Everybody had that money they were buying. Why is this happening? How do we make sense out of all these different things going on? Is there rhyme? Is there reason? So what we're going to do is recognize the fact that some of the things that are happening are not planned. They're shocks. So you wake up one day, all of a sudden there's COVID making everybody crazy. You wake up another day, all of a sudden there's an invasion in Russia into Ukraine, and that's 30% of the diamonds in the world that are coming from Russia are now off the market, according to the Americans, or maybe they're on the market because of all kinds of strange laws. So all of these shocks, they're not normal. We're not in a normal situation right now. And essentially, you'll see, I will say that we are at the beginning of what we could consider to be a global, almost like a world economic war. Thank God, hopefully, well, there's guns in the Ukraine, but we're really dealing with economic war between the United States, Europe, and Russia, and certainly also China. And so the world is kind of splitting up, and there's different things. Globalization is pretty much over. And so there's a lot of other things, but I'm going to keep away from the politics and talk about the money. One of my lessons is that you want to follow the money. So what's going on? I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to give you an outline. I'm going to tell you the story. Then I'm going to show you some graphs that backs up the story. First of all, there was a financial crisis in 2008. What happened there was that changed the way interest rates worked. And I'll go into this more later. So interest rates came up, low interest rates. It's in red. Because when you get low interest rates, money is cheap. Money is out there. Lots of money going on. Then COVID hit us. Then you had the government stimulus. Without COVID, there would have been no government stimulus. The government stimulus, it was like throwing $100 bills out of helicopters, but like maybe 1,000 helicopters, and each one throwing out $1 million. 1,000 million is $1 billion. Take that 1,000 times, you start to get to trillions. The numbers are just unbelievable. So I'm going to go through that with you. Inflation, you throw out that much money, you got inflation, then higher interest rates to combat inflation, and then less money for people. So we've been on this swinging pendulum, lots of money, no money, too much money, too little money. And you'll see us, we explain what happened and now what's going on actually. All right. So what's the big picture? Now, you don't know how to deal with all this stuff, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to understand when something happens, what is it? Let's assume it's an economic force. Something happens from outside, not just economics, it could be COVID, right? So COVID comes up, but then COVID is interactive. It creates something. It creates a scenario where people are not going to offices, where the government is giving you money, and that's creating things. And the real interesting thing that you're going to see is between interest rates and inflation. I'm going to talk about that, how that's interactive. Okay, low interest rates creates inflation. Inflation, when it gets out of hand like it is now, high interest rates. There's this dance between these forces. They're hitting each other. They're interacting with each other. So that's the external one. Then you have your internal forces, your own business. Do you have enough people to work in your store because of COVID? Are people visiting your store because of COVID? Example, there are different things that have happened and have been happening because internally into your business, nothing to do with the war. You didn't start the war with Russia. You didn't make COVID, okay? So, and all these things are affecting supply and demand. So this isn't going to solve it. What I'm giving you here is a little model, how to think about things. Something happens, this is affecting supply. Is it affecting demand? It's affecting both. What's happening outside your business? What's happening inside, internally in your business? It's just the way you can start to think about things that happen. As I give you, this is like the model that I'm using also to try to understand what's going on. So let me tell you a story. It's always nice to hear a story, and a story you can remember with all this difficult economic stuff. Financial crisis in September, I think it was September of 2018. Major companies went bankrupt, Lehman Brothers. It was greed, unethical greed of people just doing all kinds of things on Wall Street. They were figuring out how to consolidate debt that had to do with housing stocks that were garbage, and all kinds of stuff. And what happened was that the geniuses, the economists and the governments, they said, you know what? Let's make interest rates real low. So people will have economic expansion. They'll start businesses, they'll make businesses, they'll borrow money. And so we'll make money real cheap, but we'll keep interest rates very low. And that created a lot of cash, that created a lot of liquidity, and that's what helped. But they left it that way. In 2018, they figured, okay, we've got this game. It works. We'll leave it. We're going to keep interest rates very low, as you'll see afterwards in the graph. Now, then COVID hit. 2-year story, right? Starts 2018. 2 years later, bang, COVID hits. Now, COVID had a lot of effects. People were walking bombs. I got to meet my wife. My wife spent 2 years with me in one house in Israel together. And I was lucky guy. I found out I like my wife. It's good to know after 42 years of marriage now. And so we walked every morning when we were together. So that's like a cute little COVID story. But the real game, besides the question of short-term shortages and a lot of uncertainty and people worrying, $10 trillion of economic stimulus. I don't know if you can handle what $1 million is. Okay, you could look at a diamond and sold for $46 million. I could look at the diamond, maybe I have an understanding of $1 million. I could look at a car, I could look at an apartment, I could look at a house. Okay, this house is a $3 million house. Say it's $1 million thing there. Say $1 million apartment. Now, I like you to imagine $1 million apartment. I'd like to imagine 1,000 of those. That's only $1 billion. Imagine 1,000 apartments, right? And then imagine 1,000 of those 1,000 apartments. That's $1 trillion. That's $1 trillion. Huge number. 10 trillion, mind-blowing numbers. Okay, that's like cities, countries, huge amount of money. Because of COVID, they threw those money out of helicopters, literally, in many different ways. So what happened was that they had, at the same time, they had this buildup of low interest rates. So as it was, there was too much money running around. I'll show you that. And then they threw the $10 trillion out, which is a ridiculously amount of money. So of course the stock market went up. What are you gonna do with your money? And it wasn't just poor people that got money. It was wealthier people. And they had money. So the stock market went up because where are you gonna put your money? You're gonna put your money in your bank at 0 interest? 1% interest? No. So all the money ran into the stock market, created a stock market boom. COVID also caused a Chinese slowdown. It was slow, then it woke up, then it got slow. And right now, China is slow. And I would tell you, Hong Kong is dead, finished, kaputskied. And so what happened over here, the money supply driven demand, so much money around, everybody was buying stuff. And I think that's why, and I think it was the summer of 2021, I was talking to Michelle, who was telling me that, oh, nobody wants to sell anything. All the pawn shops are crazy busy. Now, so we had this thing. Okay, it's too much money, whatever. Let me go back up over here. Financial crisis and COVID. We got that. Now, no one expects this. The Russian invasion. Who needs a Russian invasion? On top of COVID. COVID's kind of settling itself down, not in China. Okay, and China's a big market for diamonds, 30%, whatever diamonds go there. But the Russian invasion, sanctions, economic warfare, higher food and oil prices, significantly higher food and oil prices. And that's been now causing inflation. And with the inflation, the higher prices back, now the government say we got to increase interest rates, which is what we're seeing today. The other thing you have to understand, that particular to the diamond industry, not the overall economic story of inflation, interest rates, we'll talk more about, but 30% of the diamonds are coming out of Alrosa or out of Russia, right? So those diamonds now, you couldn't import them. You could import them. You can bring them. You can buy the Indians can buy them. Israelis can buy them from Russia and then cut them outside of Russia and then export them to the United States. Maybe they could, and now we're finding out that they can't. All this stuff of this Russian story had a disturbance, a tremendous disturbance in food prices and stuff. Okay, you'll see in a minute, but also particular to the diamond industry. So now you have these legal issues, you have these higher compliance issues, but pawn shops are not really buying imported goods. They're not running to Russia. But I'm telling you, governments are now starting to look at diamonds even more. What's going on with diamonds? How do we stop this Russians? How do we stop this illegal activity, etc.? So this was the beginning of the story. Now, the consequences, what happened here because of this story? And it's pretty straightforward. It's low interest rates coming into the game. It's now the issue of COVID, throw money, and that's fuel on the fire, baby. Low interest rates created a scenario where there's going to be inflation. Now you throw $10 trillion on top of it. Crazy. That's going to cause inflation. So too much money, and then you get too little money, okay, with this inflation driving higher interest rates. And the shocks, COVID and the Russian invasion, are the two shocks I'm looking at. There were sub-shocks, there were other things that COVID created and Russian invasion created, like some kind of a world war, economic warfare, but I'm not going there. So these were the shocks, and the results are inflation, higher interest rates, less money, recession, which means that there's less money, people are going to buy less, and then the recovery cycle. So what we're looking at over the next 5 years, say, is a recession, which means that people are going to have less money, so they're going to buy less luxury products. Some people, And when I say some people, I want you to understand that there's different types of diamonds. Melee diamonds that a pawn shop might be selling from melt is a very different product than Harry Winston selling a $10 million diamond. And not just that the products are different. I mean, Tiffany is different than Zales, which is different than Walmart. And maybe one of the best sellers of diamonds is Costco, right? So there's a lot of different diamonds, and then there's a lot of different people. Let's say you're a rich guy, and now interest rates goes up, and you own your house because you're a rich guy. You don't owe money to the bank very much. What's the net effect? The net effect on you got more money to spend, baby. Maybe a lot more money because interest rates have been so low for so long. You may have lost some money in the stock market, but if you've got a lot of cash and now interest rates go up, you're starting to make some serious money on interest, especially if interest rates go up, maybe even double digit at some stage. But you're making money even 4.5% now. And before you weren't making anything. Now, let's say you're not a rich guy, right? You're Joe Smith. You've got a house, you got a mortgage. Oh man, that first of all, the gas prices you'll see in a minute, and the food prices, and the babysitters charging more. Everything costs more money, right? And then bam, you get here. I'm gonna smile in here. You get higher interest rates. I'm gonna close the window here a little bit, getting too much light on me. Sun setting on here, but wow, could you imagine the impact of higher interest rates on people who have variable mortgages? I mean, it's just eating away at the disposable income. It's eating away at the money that they have. So I'm just going to zip over here and lower my sun's coming in. It's beautiful. It may be a little darker, but I think I'll still be all right. You can still see me. Okay. So now let's think about this. Okay. You got a scenario where interest rates, look at that. They came down. This isn't even high, but they came almost to nothing. This is when when COVID really hit. But they were pretty low. If you go historically, they were up at 5.45, 5 to 6%. So they were like 2.5%. And they stuck around here for a while. Now look at the zero, really low interest rates coming all the way from 20. And then boom, they take off like a rocket ship. So this laid the foundation for easy money, strong stock market and everything else. But the shock, look at this. This is from like January 22. This is just like, wow. Okay, it's 558%, 5,000. That's just a number. Interest rates shot up from nothing to say 4.5%. That's scary. And that is a major influencing factor. Everything. It's going to have how much inventory you hold, how much money you borrow from the bank to hold goods, how much money your customers have. Okay. If you want to expand your business, this is a biggie. Now, why are interest rates going up? What's causing this jerking thing? And this looks like a little bit less, right? But it's really up to 4.5%. So we up to here. You see this little monster up here? This is inflation. It's literally sucking up interest rates. It's pulling them up. It's dragging them up. And it's way up, man. This thing was sitting around 2% the longest period of time. I'll jump up a little, but it was low, man. This was low. This was really, inflation was ridiculously low. And so everybody thought, hey, no problem. Inflation is low. Keep the interest rates low. Economic expansion will continue unabated. It'll never stop. But this animal up here is a tiger, man. This thing's out of control. And it's sucking this guy up. And the only way that the government can stop inflation, which kills people, inflation is really bad. It's bad for every working person, every family. It's bad for businesses. It's bad for you name it. Well, not everybody, but most everybody. Governments fight them. It's sucking this thing up over here. And that's what you got to pay attention to, everybody, because that interest rate stuff is going to be making a big difference. And I was explaining here the $10 trillion. There was $10.2 trillion that was pushed out by the government after COVID. And I'm not blaming governments for, this is like an emergency. It's like you're taking someone to the ICU, you're not going to be thinking about saving a few dollars. But 1.8 trillion went to individual of this 5.20 trillion, 1.8 trillion actual checks, and the 1.8 trillion is real money that went out to people, everybody. Here's a check, here's some money. Of course, they went to pawn shops, but they're very poor. The guy's not rich, and he doesn't even have a bank account, and he somehow gets his money. He's going to go and buy stuff at the pawn shop, stick it under his mattress so that he's got it for a while. So if the times get bad, he does. That's how he banks. That's how he saves. I'm not saying I understand everything, and certainly not as much as you guys do. But I am pointing out the fact that this $1.8 trillion gave you Christmas in the summer. And the biggest thing is that, about these monies is that they say that the worst thing is to be rich and then be poor. You get all this money and then, oh, I'm taking it away. No more money. We're turning off the hose. And that's exactly what's going on now. There is no stimulus. So when we look at the amount of money that was put out, look at all those zeros, man. Yeah, I don't think you meant 332 million Americans. That's $30,000 for every American. You can't imagine how much money. Okay, the money didn't go to all the individuals. Here's the Federal Reserve did a bunch of things, and the legislative stuff did stuff, and business, and now they passed the Anti-Inflation Act. Whatever the story is, it's unbelievable how much money has been pumped out there, and it's still there. We're still feeling the effect of that much money coming in there on top of the low interest rates. Look at what happened, though. You throw that much money out, right? So oil went up 320%. That's even with it coming down a little bit. So fortunately, it went up. It's starting to come down now. Food is up 67%. And I'm not even talking retail food, which is much more. I'm talking about actual commodity prices for wheat. This movement came about because of an excess amount of money that was put out there. No question about it. Now, to shut this thing down, you could see inflation over the long term. She was sitting around 1-2%, touching 3%, coming down. And then over here, see this 20, this is the COVID thing. And then boom, all this money, you give me $10 trillion, I'll give you inflation. You don't have to be a genius. Now, what's interesting is the retail sales keep going. And I think part of that is because there's been a lot of money out there. Now the student loan things, but you're in a world where this looks, but this is not going to keep growing. My friends, no tree grows to the heavens. So I would be careful. This US total retail sales have been very good. And that's created momentum. This is the real story here. This is the bottom line. Disposable income. How much money do you have to spend? What's been going on in America? Okay. See this boost over here, January 20. See this stuff here? This is the stimulus, man. This is the COVID gift. Here you had a little bit, came down a little bit. Okay. Actually, here, I should say February 20. This is the beginning of it. And then the money really kind of worked its way out through. Okay, but this is the first initial shock. This is when COVID started. But now it's come down. Free money, lots of money, huge amount. This is disposable income. This is per person, came down like around where it was, around the $15,000 a person. So this boom bust is what we're feeling right now. And so you can see this here also. This is when the stimulus took place, okay, around February 20, I'd say, somewhere around in here. The stimulus created the environment where the S&P 500, the stock market went, wow. Look, it's coming down now. See, it's coming down now. And you could see diamond prices, the 1 carat Rappi, that's the D to HIF to VS2 1 carat is GIA certificates and stuff. We track that thing like unbelievably perfectly. In any case, you could see that thing go up. These are RapNet prices, not the Rapaport price sheet. These are actual diamonds offered for sale. So you can see how they went up in price tremendously here as the liquidity came out, as the stock market went up. But now, boom, you see them coming down very sharply. Everyone in the diamond industry today is nervous. They don't know. It looks so good, with that retail stuff, but then you come down there and you see what's going on here, you get very nervous. And there's nervousness. You can cut the nervousness. You can see it. Rough prices are being discounted from the bears prices now in the secondary market. I guess this is just showing you how the Rapaport RapNet prices and Rapaport melee Melee took off also. Melee became strong. Part of this is because of the fact that the workers left the factories in Surat and never came back, a lot of them. So the cottage industry of cutting diamonds has come down. So there's less diamond manufacturing. And so the recycled diamonds, which is, this is Melee prices that are offered to us at auction. You can see that, in fact, 160, and here's the average. So, at 19, the average price of a Melee that we had. These are sorted goods were around 90 a carat, all the way up to $160 a carat for the. And then these are really decent goods. So don't expect if you have Melee, you're going to get $100 a carat. But this is just an indication of the movement of prices. The S&P 500, you can also see how the stock market. This is an interesting graph. This shows you how much diamonds are coming into the United States over the 50 pointers. Under the 50 pointers, the data is just wrong. There's all kinds of smuggling going on. But in the 50 pointers and up, you can see that in 2020, boom, see this over here, drop, COVID drop, things getting better here in 2021, and 2022 even better. Okay. And these are the amount of goods coming into the United States every month, about 1.5 billion, some instances 2 billion. Okay. You can see that in April and February 2020 was when really COVID hit. Boom, they stopped exporting. They weren't cutting goods in India. So you can see a little bit of how it works. You can also see the long term, what's going on here with US polished imports. It's come up. It'll probably settle down a little bit now as well. But this gives you that picture. And this is interesting, looking at Melee prices and seeing that they kind of track. So you can kind of see what happens with Melee prices based on the United States, the amount of the United States imports. And it's interesting what happens is that you have this scenario where Indians are buying the Melee. So let's say you have pawn shops that have a bunch of Melee and they sell it. And we run these auctions, I think we ran one recently, and it had something like 65,000 carats of Melee, and we sold through 83%, which is very high, very unusually high. And mostly Indian buyers out of Dubai, and then they take the goods, they fix them, they do all kinds of things to the recycled goods, and then they put them back into jewelry, sell it to Walmart or so. I don't know Walmart specifically, they sell it to whoever. And so there's this cycling of goods. So if the United States is doing well, Melee is doing well, because that's when the buyers are going to be for the goods. Now we're watching the world that is, I'll explain that at the end, where so a lot of the Melee is being sold not to people who are recutting it for the United States, but actually for the Indian market itself. Because, all that money that Americans got, they didn't spend it all in America. They gave a lot of that money to China. You look at Walmart, everyone runs to Walmart to buy, or I don't know, 60, 70% of the goods that go into Walmart come from China. Indians also provide a lot of goods. So Indian economy also gets robust when America throws money around. The buyers buy things, and when they buy it in a globalized world, they're making Indians rich, they're making Chinese rich, they're making Vietnamese rich, they're making Thais. So the money flows out there. And so what I'm predicting is that there's going to be a good Melee market for people who are buying Melee in just for Indian consumers, for other consumers. I would point out that China is dead as a doornail right now. I mean, it's just dead right now. Hopefully it'll come back. It was a major market, but right now the United States is pretty much not only the most dominant market, but very strong. 60% maybe of all diamonds now are being sold in America now that China's quiet. China will come back. And it's going to be interesting because they'll be buying these Russian sanctioned goods and stuff. But the United States market is now going through this rich, too much money. Wow, expand, and then too little money, contract. And that's what we're seeing. But I am saying that Melee prices and other things do track the imports, which then also is influenced by things like the stock market, because people get more money when they're in the stock market. Stock market going down, yeah, I know. If you just made, like $100,000 in the stock market, which a lot of people did in the last few years, you'll spend 50,000, 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, whatever it is on jewelry, and that lifts the whole market. And then if you lost the 100,000, you're not buying much jewelry. Well, unless you're very wealthy. So, and I'm just pointing out that a lot of factors that are coming together here change the mood, change what people buy. Let me stop for a minute now, and just think for a second. Do people understand what I've been talking about here? It's very weird because usually I talk to people in the how many pawnbrokers, so I'm going to just take a little break here because I'm going to start talking about other things. But I really want you to understand this story of the flow of money. Low interest rates encourage economic expansion. The tremendous amount of money the United States government put out after COVID, huge, a ridiculous amount, big inflation push, big inflation push. Inflation push results in higher interest rates to shut it off. And those higher interest rates can be brutal because they're going to keep going up until they start to decrease inflation. And the way you decrease inflation is by making money so tight that people they don't want to buy stuff. They don't want to buy stuff. There's no inflation. Prices come down. So it does take a while. About how many pawnbrokers use your auction service? I don't know. I'd have to ask Michelle, but not enough. And anybody who's on this phone call, please use us, work with us, get a competitive price. Will pawnbrokers get a higher price for the diamonds in your auctions as opposed to selling the diamond dealers in general? Yeah, I think so. The challenge is competition. In other words, let's say a guy walks into your pawn shop. I'll buy your melee, I'll give you money, right? Do you know how much the money is worth, those diamonds really? He probably knows better than you. So if he's not competing against anyone, he'll offer you a price that's less than if he had to compete against someone. Our auctions charge 5%, and we get as many people. We actually schlep the goods all the way to Dubai to get more buyers. And these buyers then have to compete against each other. So they set the price, and they set the price based on how much they need the goods. So they're thinking, I can make some money on the auction. It's a funny world. People who buy goods at auction, they call them winners. They won the lot. And I'm saying, hey, you just paid the highest price for this item. Why are you a winner? And the way that the buyers at auction think is that, let's say you see an item in an auction and you can make $150 for a carat for it. And you buy it at 110 because you're setting the price that you're going to bid, right? You won $40 a carat. You won that. So when you buy something in an auction, you're thinking about what you're going to sell it for later, and that difference is your winnings. Now, if you didn't get it because someone offered 115, okay, you didn't win. But the other guy did because he's going to make $35. Now, the question is going to be, how much do you bid at an auction, at a tender? We do tenders, right? So how much you're going to bid? You're fighting against yourself, and you're looking at how much money you can make. And you will try to give a high enough price. Obviously, you make money because you know how to sell it, you can credit, whatever you can do. And then you want to do it in a way when someone else doesn't get the goods out from under you. So I believe that auctions do give you the best price because they encourage competition. And Harvey is back with more. Our minimum required quantities of diamonds a hindrance for pawnbrokers entering the stones. Well, it could be. I mean, it depends what you have. And if it's in an auction, we do larger amounts, but we can work with you. We'll find ways to get your smaller lots worked out. Sometimes we give people loans until they can accumulate enough goods. But talk to us, Harvey. We love you. We'd love to do business with you at pawn shops, because I got to explain to you also, the idea of recycled diamonds is very sexy, and I'm going to talk about that now. I think I'm now at 4:39, so I'm 39 minutes into this thing, so I'm going to move along. So we talked about the economic thing. Now, what about synthetics? Let me tell you, friends, synthetics, they're the mother of evil, in my perspective. Okay, and I know that's maybe not nice to say, but look, you can sell synthetics, and it's a product like cubic zirconia. The only thing that bothers me a lot is that all of the suppliers say synthetics are exactly the same as natural diamonds. And they don't tell them that the price of synthetics keeps dropping like ridiculous. I mean, it's so cheap, it's like cubic zirconia eventually. And that's because the cost of making this stuff is driven by new technology of how they want to use diamonds for qubit computers and laser warfare and stuff. The getting a pure diamond is what they're after in terms of how they're generating these things. So as a side dish, you got these other diamonds, and there's hundreds of thousands of these machines, tens of thousands of these machines in China. So they're going to keep making these things. So the value of the synthetic diamonds will be cost plus. Anybody remember synthetic rubies, synthetic emeralds, and all that? So what we are going to see, and they are real diamonds to the extent they have the same physical, but you can detect them, and they're in unlimited supply. So that's the real problem of this product, that it's being, consumers are really going to get pissed off. But that's an ethical issue. But look at this, this is at the Vegas show, 97.5 off. I think goods are trading today probably about 30% off, 35% off. If they're off, make 40, but a decent stone is 20, 25, 97.5% off. So you got to wonder, you can get to 100% off, 99% off. And so they look like they're a good deal, but you got to treat them like CZ and Ryder. Synthetic diamond prices are unsustainable. They're not going to remain where they are now. The only thing I can promise you about these prices is that they're going to go down, and they're going to continue to go down as the cost of manufacturing them decreases. Now, maybe at some point the cost of manufacturing these diamonds doesn't decrease, then that will be the price, like cubic zirconia and moissanite or anything else. So you're looking at a word of unlimited supply with decreasing costs. So I don't see how any punch-up's going to give any loans or anything on synthetic diamonds. But what does this mean for you? You got to test everything, baby. I mean, if you're going to be playing around with diamonds, you got to test them. And there are testers put out by JA. There's testers that are put out by Yehuda. We can help you with that. And we should, those are good things to have. I think it costs $5,000–6,000. You can get the one with the probe. Anybody walking in, you can just touch the probe and you can tell whether it's synthetic or not. Maybe also if it's treated. But you want to look for treatments, you can protect yourself a bit. But someone shows up with a nice diamond that's a pink or a yellow or a blue, you're probably not going to imagine that it's real. And for the longest period of time, when you're buying melee, what do they give it? A penny a point, something like that. They estimate the points. They figure a penny a point, then that's what they give you. But the bottom line over here you're going to see is that if you're trading, selling anything that comes into your store, you better test it, especially if it's larger stones. Okay. And also, don't just believe a brand. Say, oh, this came from Christie, this came from Tiffany, this came from Van Cleef. People are swapping goods all the time. They're taking, I looked at this nice Winston piece with what did it have? A K color SI2. No way that's a Winston stone. So people are swapping things in and out all the time. So just because you see a brand, don't assume it's not synthetic. And I believe that the brands are going to have to go to synthetics for the very small melee eventually, especially with the Russian sanctions, because most of the small goods are coming from Russia. The rough to make the small goods, I should say. So there's an issue over here. Don't just, oh, it's a brand, it's definitely good. I'm trying to tell you, no, test it, test everything. Okay. And the more value there is in the brand, the more likely people are to do some stone switching. And also the process. Now, the other question here is, what are you going to do about synthetics in terms of your own business? Well, they're a pain in the neck because when you take in jewelry, you got to be considering whether it's real. And then I wouldn't put any value on the synthetics. Synthetics are a problem, an ethical problem because of disclosure. If people do disclose, look, this is like just costume jewelry, I don't have a problem with it. But now this mixing of goods, the switching of goods is destroying the credibility of the diamond industry. And so you need to be very careful about that. I would keep away from synthetics. I don't know, if you buy it for nothing, you sell it for nothing plus something, fine, but be careful. People will come back with it and it'll be worth almost nothing. I certainly do not support and would not support synthetic engagement rings or anything. That's like a total ripoff in my view. Okay, I don't think people realize they spend $5,000 on something that can be worth $500, maybe $50 5 years from now, maybe even less. So be careful with synthetics. And I'm open to questions. Now look, this recycled jewelry now. Let me explain. The best business in the jewelry world is buying in goods from consumers. Now, pawn shops have been doing this endlessly, and they make even better business because of the high interest on the loans. Okay, but and maybe that is a better business than buying in the actual jewelry. But there's going to be millions of consumers selling billions of dollars of diamonds, gems over the next decade. That's a hell of a statement. Where does that come from? Look at this. Look at the US population right now. I mean, this is as of September, the Census Department. 22.19 million Americans over the age of 75. Diamonds are forever. Little old ladies are not. What's going to happen to the jewelry? They've been importing goods at about $7 billion a year, net imports into the United States from the last 30, 40 years. That means we've accumulated in the United States something along the lines of 7 billion times 10 is 70 billion, 280 billion, $300 billion of diamonds that have been accumulated in the United States, and a lot of nice stuff in the 30s and 40s. So that stuff's going to be sold. Someone's going to buy it. If that state, I know there's a lot of melt. You're going to buy a lot of melt, like the old days when gold went up and everybody was buying the melt. You can melt it. You can sell the melt through us. You can do all that. That's no problem. But do you have an eye for understanding what's going to happen? And you got another 76.44 million Americans, baby boomers. I'm 70 years old now, buddies. I was born in 1952. I'm a baby boomer. And okay, I'm 77 at that end. There's some younger ones, 56. They say 76 million. These people are going to get older. They're going to sell jewelry. They're going to buy too, because the baby boomers got more money. Eventually, the money's going to go to these millennials. These millennials, they don't deserve it, in my view. Okay, but they're going to inherit more money than has ever been inherited in the history of the world. Trillions and trillions of dollars from the baby boomers to the millennials as they get older. So if you're looking at a long-term view, you're going to say, get this stuff here and sell it to these guys. And you're not going to be able to do it in your pawn shop probably, but you're going to be able to buy in goods if you figure out how to value it. And I'm going to talk about that now for a minute. Yeah, I'm just going to show you this population thing. One second. You see this thing here? Here's the baby boomers. Okay. Here's this Gen Z and millennials. Millennials, they're probably going to be inheriting. Okay, so they're going to be buyers. Gen Z to some degree also. But this sales over here, this trend is just going to keep going on stronger and stronger. So how do you play it? How do you play this game? So much of the recycled jewelry may be melt. So buy melt, no problem. You buy it in, you take it, you melt it. It's easy. You get the diamonds out. We can auction the diamonds for you. No problem. Other people sell the diamonds. But that's melt's a simple, straightforward business. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Companies with jewelry expertise can make incredible profits. What do I mean by expertise? The ability to determine the quality and price of estate jewelry. And there's a lot of nuance. It's got gems in it, it's got diamonds in it, whether the colors of the diamonds, you gotta test everything. But even then, upscale facilities, what you gotta do is if you again, maybe you don't want to change your business. You're doing fine, your pawn shop's wonderful. Don't let Martin Rapaport make you crazy. But if you can upscale a little bit and attract some upscale customers, you're going to get pieces of jewelry that may be worth a lot of money that you can buy. And I'm not asking you to rip off the consumers. The consumers should go and they should show the goods to other jewelers as well. But if they go into a Zales or those people will jump underneath, they'll hide. They can't buy anything. So there always is one or two guys in town that really know nice quality jewelry, of course. But if you're out there and you're buying in goods and you see something decent, maybe you don't want to melt it, okay? And be careful with the testing again, because you may look at a piece and it's got, oh, this is a stamp piece, Van Cleef, blah, 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 and then it's full of synthetics. So be careful again. Older, fine quality jewelry can be very valuable. The more you know, the more money you will make. Does it pay to become an expert if you're a pawn shop in jewelry? Well, I think you want to do it properly. You don't want to, the GIA has got some courses, but you want to get your feel. Now, pawn shop guys are really good hustlers. I mean, they feel the market. I don't know, baseball cards, I don't know, old hats. I don't know what musical instruments, guns. I don't know what pawn shops don't buy. But diamonds and jewelry and gems, there's a whole other, it's a niche area. If you can get in there, you're going to make lots of money, incredible amount of money because of your expertise. And so I'm encouraging this, okay, and I'm showing you the US population. So where are we going with this whole thing? So first of all, money's going to be very tight now, okay? And that's something you should be aware of. That may be very good for your pawn shop business, because people need to get loans or they need to do something. Inflation and high interest rates are making money tight. After you paid for the gas and after you paid for the food and then after you've paid for the mortgage, man, you're looking around saying, hey, where's that? I need more money. Okay. Recycled diamonds are going to do amazing. Everyone loves this whole idea of the circular economy, and they represent great value. Like I said before, the most profitable segment of the jewelry industry is people who buy and sell estate jewelry coming in from consumers. You make more money buying than you do selling. And to pawn shops, that may not be a surprise at all, but to the Joe jewelers out there, yeah, they don't even know enough to buy half the time. They're just some glorified showcases. Bigger, better diamonds are going to do incredibly well. I'm telling you now, there's a show, Gem Genève, today in Geneva, and I believe it's getting hot. It's getting strong, big fancies. I'm not talking 5 carats. I'm talking about really valuable stuff. It's going through the roof. People have so much money. Rich people have money. They don't care about inflation. They're benefiting from high interest rates. The rich getting richer like crazy, and the big market, the better market, is going strong. And I think Melly will do okay with good Indian demand. We expect India and we expect some of the other markets to actually buy this Melly, although I will warn you that synthetics are a great challenge. There's so much synthetics out there. People don't want to give a higher price. We, for example, represent the government of Bahrain on natural pearls. These guys have natural pearls out there. One of the few places in the world where they have natural pearls. But it's hard for natural pearls to break out from the cultured pearl market where everybody's got so many pearls. So it's natural. So we have to be careful with melee regarded to synthetics, because synthetics are going to be so out there, so much of it out there, that people are going to wonder, oh, so it's real, is it real, isn't it real, and stuff like that. But again, testing will take you to a good place, and we test everything that we put out on our melee auctions. People trust us, and therefore we get these higher prices for melee. The upcoming was to provide opportunities for pawn shops. Obviously, people need money. They're going to come in. They're going to provide more stuff. Interest rates are going to be higher, so you have to deal with that. So that may reduce your profit margins. But fundamentally, you've got opportunities: tight money, more loans, and then if you're able to test for synthetics and treatments, you're able to take in goods. You're able to buy goods. You're able to do stuff. So I'm predicting a more robust season as we go over the next 1 and 2 years. There'll be more opportunities for pawn shops because the economy is going to be more difficult. Okay. Recycled diamonds enjoy to be a growing business. The definition of the product is recycled gives it ethical cachet. Okay, so saying this is recycled, and don't just melt jewelry everywhere all the time, but that's the real question of expertise. So obviously, if people need money, you're going to just melt it, but there might be an opportunity. And we at Rapaport are working on. You take a picture, you send it to us. We'll be able to advise you and tell you if it's really good. But you guys know the market. You guys know the people. I think most pawn shops can literally smell value. So when you're going to buy something that's a little better, it's not for melt. Learn that, because there's going to be a lot of it coming down the pipeline. Pawn shops that can upskill, both in terms of their expertise, also the clients that they attract, will be able to trade profitable estate jewelry. They're going to be able to better facilities appeal to upscale consumers, better expertise regarding quality and prices for estate jewelry. That's it. You don't have to kill yourself, but learning and understanding the value of better jewelry, because better the jewelry, probably you may have more profitable opportunities. Now, the auctions can help because it'll give you an actual cash price. You'll follow that. You'll learn that. You'll know that. But the name of the game is to reach out, buy goods, get to some of those better customers, upscale, upgrade. And if you do that, you're going to make tons of money, ridiculous amounts. So we're here to help you. You can trading at Rapaport.com. That's our phone number. You can talk to Michelle any day. And I believe that pawn shops represent one of the greatest opportunities for recycling. they make it clear that recycling is an obligation of the diamond and jewelry. You sell somebody something, you should buy it back later at a fair price. And the more that you understand about the product, the more you're likely to give a fair price. We are encouraging competition from retailers, pawn shops, everybody. And we will help advise also, because we're setting up a systematic way you can take a picture of something, send it to us. And, we won't know much, or we can tell you, maybe you don't want to melt that. Okay, but again, we don't want to get clobbered with millions of things from millions of people. So we want to pick our customers, we want to pick our clients, we want to have relationships with people. And that's why I'm so appreciative of the Pawnbrokers Association taking the time to give me this opportunity to communicate with you guys and to develop relationships with, I believe Michelle is going to work on for all those kind people from the National Pawnbrokers Association, and want to interface with Rapaport, know what we're doing, work with us. But we really are here to help you to find out how do we get these new opportunities and what do we do about the situation. So I hope this has been a little helpful, and I am wide open for questions.
I think there were a few questions in the Q&A there. Martin, can you see those?
Oh yeah, I'm going to read them right up here right now. I mean,
Okay.
come on, you guys. I didn't think that pawn shop guys would be shy about asking questions. Okay, you guys are much more. I was you guys. What do I know about you guys? Okay, well, let's see. So, besides the major stimulus, what alternative choices do the governments have? They don't have well, look, throwing money out during COVID. Yeah, no one's blaming anybody. I'm looking at what's happening here, and my view of the world is I'm like watching a Shakespeare play. I don't think governments had any choice. I think that people were bombs. We were afraid of people. We were afraid to touch things. I remember the beginning of COVID, my kids were wiping down all the groceries that came into the house. People, you're afraid to talk your kids. Your grandchild could kill you, right? People were freaking out. So throwing all that money at that situation, yeah, I would have done it. The same thing. Okay. So, but now you're going to get the consequences. There's a time to party, and after you party, you may get a headache. Now we are going to be going through a period of what would the alternative done to the economy? Oh man, if they didn't put all that money out there, who knows? Supplies would have tightened up tremendously. No one would get money. As it is, the supply chains came under stress, but there was enough money at the other end for consumers buying that they went. Also, people didn't suffer. So I'm not, I'm pretty good with the idea of throwing money out there. The only thing is, we should be aware. Now is the time to pay the piper. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's no such thing as free anything. So that's it. Thank you. Exactly what I'm saying. Pawn shops and higher-end pawn shops are going to get very rich. It's going to be like when gold prices surged and everybody made a ton of money. So, but you got to be in the game. You got to understand what you're dealing with. Okay. So, and by the way, I'm not just talking jewelry. If you're doing, I don't know what you're doing, ceramics, art, all that stuff's coming back on the market. Not all of it. Say the family has emotional connections and heirlooms, and so they keep some of the stuff, right? But when these guys pass on, their kids are weird and they want different things, and they're not so sentimental. And they're gonna chuck the stuff. They're gonna sell it. So, it's like the investment diamond days. We made upstairs investment office. I don't know if I was a pawn shop, I wouldn't make an upstairs quiet office that buys in things from people. But there's more money in the buying than the selling, in my view, over the next 5 years, relative to. It may take longer, 3 to 10 years. I don't know, in terms of what people are going to be selling. So just make sure you know as much as you can about those opportunities and what you could buy. Now here comes Michael. Michael, I know. Let me just see. I'm keeping going here. So thank you. Exactly right. Yeah. Why do you think gold has not reacted to the traditional way we all thought it would be with high inflation? Yeah, possible tactical nuclear. I don't know if you're a diamond guy, not a gold guy. I am a bit of a gold guy. I don't own diamonds. I get stuck with them occasionally in an auction, but that's not our business. But I do have some gold, and I'm also saying, how come gold isn't going up? Well, I was listening to some people about this, and they were talking about Bitcoin being an absorber of this kind of money that you don't get too much money, what are you going to do with it? Now, Bitcoin's taken a real drop, so I don't know how true that is. So I think gold still has its dance to do. Okay. And Russia has been taking a big position in gold as well. They may be selling gold. That was one of the big things they did to prepare themselves for this invasion. Okay. Tactical nuclear weapons. I don't know what Mr. Putin's got on his mind. Whoever thought he would go into Ukraine, whoever thought he would go into Ukraine and get stuck there. From an ethical perspective, war is not a good thing, and stirring the pot that way doesn't make sense. Will he go to tactical nuclear war? I don't know, but if he does, I would say that's even going to be more poop hitting the fan. It's going to get, the sanctions are going to keep growing. I think the world is splitting. I think there's going to be a Russia, China, Iranian axis. I think there's going to be United States, Europe, Australia, Canada kind of an axis. And then I think there's going to be like an India sitting in the middle, maybe Africa in the middle, and wondering where they should go and what they should do and who's going to win. We tend to believe that we're right, and because we're ethical, we're moral. But, Hitler came to power too. So we have to be very careful about everything. I think we want to be focusing very much on our business and less the politics, because we don't control that. What are you going to do? You're going to speculate all day. What you want to do is you want to learn as much as you can about diamonds, gems, and jewelry so that you can buy this stuff when it shows up. And I think that would be a very good plan as you go to the future. You may want to be considering there's going to be a recession. So you want to be able to make sure you have a good source of money as well if you want to be buying a lot of goods and giving a lot of loans at high interest rates. And you want to be moderating your interest rates. Listen, the government is not very happy with pawn shops and with check cashing and some of the activities that the pawn community is involved with. So you got to be careful there. I think there may be more regulation coming the Republicans will probably take the House, maybe the Senate, but we're still going to be in a situation with more government regulation as things get very dicey out there. And there's going to be a lot of inflation. I don't see how they're going to shut inflation down. And I think interest rates might actually reach double digit. So we're at the beginning of this process, and I just honestly don't know where it's going to end up. Okay. Any more questions? Oh, here. Good. Ben. Okay. Any marketing ideas for the group to attract those estate? Yeah, I think you can attract estate pieces by letting people know that you're buying them. There's a lot of word of mouth like this. People don't trust people. It's very scary because, here's this woman. She got this piece of jewelry from her mother. She's 70 years old. She thinks it's worth God knows what, $50,000. You look at it and maybe it's worth $5,000. And you're going to break her heart and piss her off. But in the end, she wants to sell it. Now, if she passes on and her kids want to sell it, they're not as attached. But just be honest. The best marketing idea I have for you is to be honest with the people that you're buying from. Give them a fair shake. And, and then they're going to tell their friends. And that's how you're going to build your business. So you got to think local. The global issues I'm talking about are out there, but you're a local business, you deal in a community, but extend your community. So would you have a party to show higher quality goods or show your expertise, have an appraiser come in and just do free appraisers for people some days? Those are marketing ideas that you can do, but really it's all about you and your brand. And maybe you change the name in the estate buying section or an estate buying office, or maybe a couple of pawn shops get together in the same community. I don't know if you guys like to work together or not. And you have this. I know that at Rapaport will help you. In other words, you send us pictures of things, you talk to us about things. If you're serious, we'll invest a little time with you to figure out where to go. And if you're buying everything, it melts. Maybe you want to go through and see is there anything that you got in there that's worth more as a piece of jewelry that melts. And I'll tell you often it's not. When my mom passed away, I had an appraiser because in the law of the state of Florida, they have to have an appraiser. And the appraiser came in and looked at everything that she had. And 80%, and my mother was a feinschmecker. She had some really nice things. Yeah. But about 80% of it was just melt, throw it on the scale. That's it. And that's how they appraised that's how they evaluated it. Now, was she 100% right, the appraiser? I don't know. A lot of experience. So I think that you don't want to get carried away trying to figure out something that should go to melt what it's worth so much. But when you see a nice piece, it's meaningful. And if you're ever in New York, you should definitely look at the auctions. And you know what you can do? Look at Christie's and Sotheby's online catalogs. That would be a great way for you to educate yourself as well. When you see a piece like this, and then you know, oh, that's sold at Christie's for $6,000. Oh, the person's walking in with something, and then pay careful attention to anything that's branded. Again, I'm warning you that they switch diamonds on those things or switch gems, but know your brands. Someone walks in and you start buying brands, those are going to be the higher end consumers in your community. They may not feel comfortable walking into a pawn shop, so maybe you go to their homes. You say, hi, if you have some stuff that you'd like to sell, let me know. I'll come by. Maybe you'll come by with an appraiser, and you'll look at stuff and you'll make offers. It doesn't have to be in your shop. Listen, build relationships with people who want to sell. I'm not telling you have to go visit old age homes, but I don't know if you wouldn't give a class in an old age home about, how to sell your jewelry or something, but you'll be looking like some kind of ambulance chaser. So I don't know. Let me say, I'm not a pawn shop guy, but if you think out of the box, just be honest. Honesty is the best marketing policy because it gets out there and you got to let people know what you're doing, but just build relationships. And that's what we want to do with you guys. Same advice I'm giving myself here, which is build relationships with people, get knowledge and expertise, be efficient, be competitive in the sense that you give people a fair shake. And then people will then beat away. I just know that it's going to rain. There's going to be a lot of jewelry coming out of the market. So that I can tell you. How you can handle that, you have to just be honest and straight. And we'll help you try to get the market value by doing our auctions. So, and there are other auctions too, but we'll work with you. And we want to build that trust relationship. I think Michelle had talked to me very much about that. Okay. Any more questions? Any more issues that you'd like to raise? What a nice group of people. I can't even see anybody. Let me take a look at yeah. I like talking in Vegas. I look out there, I see I can see like 700 people. I look at over here, I don't see any, although I see Kristen. Nice to see you, Kristen.
Nice to see you too, Martin. Yes, there's an option to set it up as a meeting or a webinar, and they elected to do the webinar, but I understand that there were a couple other questions on the chat I noticed at the very top from Harvey, and I don't know if you wanted to take a look at those.
Sure, I'm happy. Once you get me, you get me. You can't get rid of me, but then it's hard to get me.
We love it.
41 participants. How do I see? Let me see with the chat. Let's look over here.
On the chat, if you scroll up, it looks like Harvey had a couple questions regarding your actual auction platform.
Yeah, I saw that. So I said 5%.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But I'm looking for chat and I don't see chat. I see stop video, pause.
I think it's just the Q&A.
So you don't have accept. Someone was saying something here. I'm listening.
Oh, let's see. Sam Shockett made a let's see.
And sometimes we can actually do talking and stuff. We quite raise hand disable. No chat.
Well, next time you join us, we'll do that.
I'm good with everybody. I'm good with everything.
Awesome.
Okay, Sam is here. Harvey, thank you, Martin. Very interesting. Informative, thank you. Punch ups that are not bankable. All right, with punch ups that are not bankable are a trust fund baby or have a tree in the backyard that grows gold will run out of cash. Yeah, you guys are going to run out of cash. That's why you need the auctions to turn this stuff into cash back. Okay, this is the time to have financials that banks can understand and approve of, borrowing at 6 to 8%. If it stays that way, and loaning out at 36, it's a smart bet. You bet it is, as long as you can get those high interest rates when you lend the stuff out. But I think interest rates may go up to double digits, so I'm saying to borrow, okay? And I think we're at 4.5% now, which was 0 3 months ago. But yeah, I think that's the thing. And listen, getting your company more, already you meet all these tremendous compliance requirements. I was visiting a punch up and I went to see how the whole thing works. And you have to know every piece. You have to have who it was bought from. You have to have identification. You have to make sure it's not stolen. So you know that your stuff is bona fide recycled goods, and we'll sell them as recycled as well. And that means there's no environmental damage. And that means that there's social added value to the product. Now, get your companies ready. You're like you're so straight, and then in terms of all the things that you have to do to take in the goods, just make that extra effort to make sure whatever you can do to to be bankable, to be attractive, and I think, but then again, what am I talking about, Mr. Fancy Pants? You guys are running pawn shops. You know what you're doing. You know how to make money, what you're doing. So who says you got to go jump into doing other things? And people are going to be selling all kinds of stuff. And if your clientele are the people who don't bank, or the people who don't have a lot of money, or the people that use you as a bank, okay, that's fine. And just you get more stuff there. Just think of the demographic. Think about the older people. Think about the transition that we're going to be seeing generationally, because demographics don't lie. Wars come, wars go. Foreign currencies are going crazy now. Also, the dollar is incredibly strong. Okay, but these things shift a lot. The demographics don't. So you're gonna have a lot of 75-year-olds coming up. Okay, so I think about how you can make money buying this stuff, and then also be aware that we're going into pretty much. I think it's pretty obvious we're going into a recession. So just think about tight money, how you'll operate. Okay, guys. And talk to us. And I'm in New York now. If anyone's going through New York sometime, get together, talk to Michelle. We're really looking for relationships with people. To me, that's the most valuable thing. Just working with good people. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate gift. That's the ultimate good. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Martin, I want to tell you, I was at a conference not too long ago, and somebody was talking about you and telling me that you were such a knowledgeable personality, somebody in this industry who's been around for a long time. And I believe they were recommending you as a speaker or keynote or something like that at the time that we were having that conversation. But they mentioned to me how personable you were and down to earth and those kinds of things. And I just think you're fantastic. I think it was so much fun today to have you join us. And I really genuinely appreciate you taking the time to do it. At the NPA, we're about relationships as well. And networking with qualified pawn professionals is what this is all about. So if there's anyone on the call today who doesn't know about membership in the NPA, please check it out on the website, and we are happy to answer any questions about that. But again, thank you, Martin, for your time today. Thank you to everyone on the call. We really appreciate your participation and hope everyone has a really fantastic end to their day.
Sure, and thank you very much for your kind words. Okay, but obviously you haven't spoken to my wife. She'll fill you in. She'll fill you in on the real me. And
put me in touch.
There you go. Oh no. Anyways, thank you, Michelle, also for bringing this about. And I really would appreciate people talking to Michelle, talking to her. Anytime you have something, want to do some business, just reach out to us. And I'm sure Michelle would love to have relationships with you guys, and me too if I'm around. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Sure. Right. Bye.